Seem to be sitting
Hi,
high.
hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mental Health Warriors. I'm Caroline Murphy-Venice, your host for today. I'm the Rainbow Warrior, and we have an amazing guest here today from the Gold Coast in Australia, Lawrence, and he's going to be back with us in a minute after this little video. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Delighted to have you here watching us. I'm here from Dublin in Ireland, and Lawrence, as we said, in the Gold Coast in Australia. So it's amazing. I love when the two hemispheres come together like that, Lawrence. And Lawrence is actually a wellness coach, and he kind of focuses on health and well-being and as a preventative to chronic illness. So I'm so thrilled to have his company, and I'm really delighted. I'm looking forward to be filled with his wisdom, and for all of you to hear his story that kind of got him to where he is today. So Lawrence, if you could please introduce yourself and just tell us, like, what sparked this passion around wellness and and well-being and health.
Yeah, well, certainly. I suppose I was a little bit ignorant. I suppose of initially. People live their life, and usually it's their parents that they've adopted their lifestyle from, and so I thought I was living fairly healthy, and I suppose what happened was 16 years ago, my mum passed away. So that was a big turning point in my life, and so she had breast cancer, but she didn't actually die of the breast cancer. She passed away from a side effect of the drug that she was taking to prevent the cancer from coming back. And that sort of opened my mind a little bit to why. Started asking questions, and then well, at the time I was working in corporate, and so I suffered depression probably about 3 times working in corporate. And the reason mainly was I was a workaholic. So if there was a job to be done, I'd work really odd hours. So some of the favorite sayings that I would say was, sleep is very overrated, and I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Okay.
So, so I believed I was eating okay. I certainly wasn't exercising, and so after a while, I decided I was going to quit corporate and I was going to start my own business. So I've got a printing business, and but I found the same thing happened. When things got busy, I worked really long hours and wasn't exercising, probably skipping meals, and I felt myself going into depression again. So I continually asked, why? Why am I? Because normally I'm fine, but so I realised it was sleep and lack of exercise that was the main thing. And then I working with a company that sells quality skincare and nutritional supplements, and they have scientists in their business as well, and they were educating us on health, and we're looking at nutrition and what happens if you don't get enough sleep. And I sort of put a couple of things together, and since I've been focused on doing these 4 things, and that's nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress management, I've been able to avoid any further bouts of depression. So.
Yeah, amazing. That's amazing. Actually, just a lot of actually alignment with my life story and your life story. I think, without realizing, because my mom at the moment, she has breast cancer, and she's been suffering for the last 3.5 years, and like that, it's you'd love to see, it's hard when you see something becoming chronic, and I suppose it does, I suppose open up those questions of like what could have prevented it, that kind of way. Even though my mom had a very, very healthy lifestyle, like she's usually, but I think stress was a big thing throughout her life, and I do think that definitely was something, a contributing factor to, it had a cumulative effect maybe over time.
Yeah. Well, when you're stressed, it produces a hormone called cortisol, and that wreaks havoc on your immune system. So if you're a person that's always stressed, your cortisol levels are going to be very high. And over time, that has a huge impact on your immune system. And that allows disease to come into your body. So you've got to manage your stress levels.
On a daily basis, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about actual lifestyle changes. So what was happening to me was I kept on repeating the same patterns. So I'd go into depression and I'd realize that I had to slow down. I actually changed jobs. I changed careers even to take that stress away. But then when I got into my new career, I found I was doing exactly the same thing. I fall into the same trap again. So yeah, I knew it wasn't out there. It was me that had to change. And it wasn't until I actually made those lifestyle changes permanently that I found a difference. I noticed a difference. And I know now if I'm working too late at night in particular for too many days in a row, I can feel myself going into that depression state again.
Yeah.
And I know I got to back off and just. And I've got friends that I coach as well, and they struggle with actually making those lifestyle changes permanent. And they're in hospital, and I'm chatting to them, and I ask them those questions. How's your nutrition going, and your sleep and your exercise? And they're not doing those things, so they've fallen out of that habit, and then they've fallen into depression again.
Yeah. It's a fine balance, isn't it? I call that like mental health. And I was saying in these programs, like it's a balance, a daily balance to kind of try and keep everything going. Because it's like as if, like there's a moment, definitely, like I know you were in printing and design business, corporate, like the same as myself, that there's such a momentum when it comes to that in that industry. Like there's always a deadline, there's always something to be launched, something really needed, and you need to be kind of it actually drives their kind of, it's you're always on a it's like as if I would say it's like triage, like A&E, you're always there, accident and emergency all the time, kind of like go, and it's so easy to get burnt out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And the problem with me is I'm a willing worker, so I love challenges, and unfortunately, bosses like to load you up as well. So if you're willing, they'll just keep on putting the work onto you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like challenges. So, but that's my downfall. I've got to learn to say no more often.
Yeah, that's so true. I find that myself, I tend to do that as well. If you're kind of like, you like challenges, you thrive on challenge kind of thing. And you like, but then it's trying to maintain that, what fills you up, like, and what are the practices that you need to keep in your day, regardless of anything else that's happening around you, because then you won't be able to keep going. You know the way? It's like, you know, it's a vicious circle then, isn't it? Because you won't be able to enjoy that kind of natural where you are able to be able to, because it does feel good to be achieving and to be kind of using your talents as in a way that it kind of is moving, you know, a business forward even, or whatever you're doing. But if you're not going to maintain your health, then you're not going to be able to do that.
No. Yeah. The most important thing is your health. If you haven't got your health, basically you've got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's such a, I know during COVID as well, massive difficulties with corporate wellness. You know, it's an area where I think people are moving into as well to kind of support people in the corporate world, because it's been so challenging with working from home and having to be very still on the ball and working up to the same speed, but you have children at home and you have, you know, you're not in the work environment, you know, that's difficult to keep the structure, you know, like say if you have a good structure about, you know, get up and go to work, and you're going, some people get up and go early to the gym or whatever, but if they don't have that access to, or even corporate gyms and stuff like that, they don't have access to that anymore, you know, during all these lockdowns and stuff, and all those habits being broken, you know.
Yep.
It's difficult.
Yeah, I'm lucky because now I work for myself and I work from home. So and in the lockdowns, I normally go to the gym for mornings at 5 o'clock. And during the lockdowns, the gyms were closed there for a while. Yeah, but still go for a walk. I love organic gardening. So. And that's my happy place. So when I want a break or I'm feeling a little bit stressed, particularly in the afternoon, I'll go outside and walk around the garden and do a bit of watering, talk to the plants, basically. But also the garden supplies us organic vegetables, so we eat a lot of the food out of the garden.
That's beautiful. That's gorgeous. You're getting double benefit there, aren't you? And was that something that you found you always liked, or did you always have that, or was it something you cultivated recently? Or
No. I've always liked gardening. Even in my early 20s, when I was first married, that was one of my favourite pastimes, is growing vegetables. Yep. And everywhere we've lived, I've always had a vegetable garden. So
that's lovely. That's really lovely.
It's only been probably the last 5 years where it's actually gone organic. So we don't use any fertilizers or pesticides at all.
Gorgeous. Yeah, that's really happy. And you've learned so much. You were saying that you're working with the beauty industry and wellness industry, and I suppose it's made you maybe more aware of what you're putting on your body and your skin as well as in your body.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, there's a lot of products out there, particularly soaps, that's very damaging for your skin. So most of them are very alkaline, and your skin is acidic. So when you're using alkaline soaps, it strips the natural oils out of your skin, and it breaks your acid mantle that you've got on your skin. So it's very important to use a pH balanced soap when you're having a bath.
You see, I don't think people have that understanding. It's funny. I started last year. I started interviewing companies around that. I was trying to, I suppose, it started Flourish by Design around the idea of like conscious business, and it was around kind of eco products as well. And I interviewed some of people in Ireland who were creating those products. One woman in particular, she had designed a soap because she realized when she had a baby, all the chemicals that were in the soap, she didn't want to put onto her child's skin. So she kind of took it in hand, the problem, and in their kitchen table, she just came up with this, you know, recipe for a soap that she'd be happy to use on her child, and she made a business out of it, you know. And it's just beautiful. Like, you know, I love to hear that, and I love even to hear, you know, any of the eco products being brought out, because like I don't think people even have that understanding. You know, do you find out, Lawrence, that the understanding of like the holistic, I suppose, that everything has an impact, even what you're putting on your skin, it goes into the system. You
Yep.
know, I don't think people have that understanding.
No. And the water you drink as well. So part of the nutrition. So, and I've actually got an environmental engineering degree as well. So I can
Wow.
understand soils, and that's probably why I'm a good gardener. And
Wow.
we get better results if we use rainwater. So we've got rainwater tanks. And
Wow.
I know why that's the case, because in the soil, you've got microorganisms that break the soils down for fertilizer that the plant can take up. And so in our drinking water, we normally have fluoride and chlorine, which kills organisms in the water.
Right.
So when you're watering your plants with tap water, the chlorine will reduce the microorganisms in the soil.
Wow.
So when we're actually drinking tap water with chlorine in it, it's going to affect our gut exactly the same.
Yeah.
It reduces our healthy gut flora,
Yeah.
just minutely, but we're talking about little things that add up.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing. Oh my God, I love you speaking to that, because it's so important. Like I know I've had problems myself, and like I think the cumulative effect, like you said, of something small like that over time, like and over somebody's life, when they get into their 40s and 50s, it starts to really show, doesn't it?
yeah. So that's there's a lot of other things too. Like food allergies. People are not. Oh, I suppose some are aware of their food allergies because it shows. But probably about 80% of people are intolerant to dairy and gluten, and they don't know it. And what happens is it inflames your intestines, and you're not able to absorb the nutrients out of the food that you eat. So your body is actually starving. So you might be eating well, but you might be allergic to one thing, and that causes inflammation. And in reality, your body's not getting enough nutrition, and your body acts like a triage. So the nutrition that it comes in, it'll allocate it to the vital organs to keep you alive. And it sacrifices first of all, it'll sacrifice nutrition to your skin, your hair, and your nails. And then later in life, long term, you'll lose your eyesight and your hearing.
Oh my God. You serious? Oh my
So
gosh.
it's really important to keep the nutrition level up really high.
Wow. That's amazing, actually, to think of. Like, so it's really just, so it's just basically putting the nutrition to your vital organs, and it's leaving everything else because it doesn't have enough nutrition to feed those, and then your sight and your hearing. Wow.
Yeah. So most people aren't getting enough nutrition. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting. We've got a machine called the Biphotonic Scanner, right? And in 30 seconds, it reads your internal antioxidant level. And so we get most of our antioxidant levels from fruit and vegetables. So if you've got a low score, it means that you're not eating enough vegetables in your diet. And we call it our nutritional lie detector, because people will say they're eating healthy, and I put them on this machine, and I can tell what sort of lifestyle or how good their diet is. And I've actually been able to identify that there is a food intolerant, because if they score really low, and they're telling me what they eat and what they're eating, and it's all healthy, well, then there's something there that's causing inflammation. So then we try to go and identify what it is. And so all these things too, if you're not getting enough nutrition, your body, that's one of the things that will send you into depression. Not the only thing. So if you manage the first three, nutrition, exercise, and sleep, you can handle more stress. but you have to be doing all three of them.
Mm.
It's no good having exercising. Well, this is the other thing too. A lot of people don't realize if you over exercise, it puts oxidative stress on your body. So you need to be eating more of the vegetables with high antioxidants.
Okay.
If you're not, if you're just focusing on protein to build lean muscle, then your immune system's going to be compromised, and you're more open to depression or chronic disease.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
So,
also,
go ahead.
there's got to be a balance, yeah. And also, if you're over exercising, that produces cortisol, higher cortisol levels in your blood. And if you've got high cortisol levels in your blood, it's very difficult to sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, so
so it's also connected, isn't it? Because the way some people become, you were talking about at the beginning, being a workaholic, and I've seen that with people as well, and they decide to try to combat that and then pick up exercise, and then they become exercise fanatics, And, that, like you said, then it's causing a problem when they're not having that balance there either, isn't it?
yeah.
So
the key to prevent depression, which leads to mental health issues, is that balance between those four things, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing to go into the, because like that, it's just getting to the mindset of that holistic care, isn't it? That it's all a whole. Like you can't just focus on one area over the others. They all have to have their place, like a pie, cutting it into having an equal measure of everything, just to kind of keep yourself in that wellness state, I guess, and have you found your own in your own experience your health has improved?
Yes.
Hugely. Yeah.
So I'm 60, and I think at 45 they identified that I had high blood pressure, and I used to give blood, and the Red Cross refused to take blood at that time because I had too high a blood pressure, and I think I had very low iron as well. And so I went and seen the doctor, and they wanted to put me on high blood pressure tablets. And I said, no, what have I got to do to lower my blood pressure? And he said, well, you can probably lose a bit of weight, you can exercise more, you can drink less. And I said, okay, that's what I'll do. And so that's when I started going to the gym. And probably within about 6 months, my blood pressure had dropped to normal, and it's been normal ever since. So rather than taking medication, I just changed the lifestyle, and and that's working for me. And certainly more energy now. I sleep better as well. Yeah.
Amazing. That's fantastic, because there is, that's great hope for people as well, just to say that I suppose it's giving control back into people's hands as well, instead of, I suppose I love people to, share those stories, because it's experiential, like you've lived it and you've prevented yourself from having to be on, a lifetime of medication that, because that can cause other issues within the body. Do you think, when people are taking in medication and like the imbalances and hormones and things like that, would you, I suppose preventative measures are always better, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Yeah. My father, unfortunately, he's 86, and so when my mother passed away, his health deteriorated for all the same reasons. He wasn't eating well, and I tried to offer support, and unfortunately, family is the hardest people to talk to. So I've just watched his health deteriorate.
Oh, that's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, because like you said, it's all about habits, and then it's when you get to a certain age, it's very hard to break those habits.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Excuse me. And like that, maybe when people are really close to you, you don't listen to them as much. As maybe takes the doctor to try and wake you up out of that.
Well, I wanted to give him some of our supplements right in the early days as a preventative treatment. I knew that it would give him the nutrients that he needed, and but I asked him to take the information to the doctor because he would have to adjust the medication, decrease the medication. So I wanted to work with the doctor, and I actually went to school with the doctor, so I knew him.
Okay.
And my father came back to me and said, no, the doctor said not to take them because it would interfere with my medication, with his medication. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. So I rang the doctor, and that wasn't the case at all. The doctor looked at the ingredients and said, yeah, there's some things there that would be beneficial. Take them. It wouldn't hurt.
Okay. So
So
does it a resistance in himself, to kind of, maybe it's just a generation where they always feel the doctor knows best, and it's difficult to take in new ideas, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had a friend that was a nurse, and he said it was actually her that told him that the supplements would interfere with the medication. So
Right, yeah.
yeah,
It's yeah, and I often think that the lack of kind of understanding. I know with my own dad, and he passed away in May, but like the understanding around nutrition for him, when it came to the doctor's visits, just doesn't seem to be there, does it? That kind of understanding where, I suppose at one point he came back and through with his blood results said that he was, had malnutrition, and I was like, oh my God, and like that, it's just that he had a poor diet, that he wasn't getting everything that he needed, and his blood, his just
it
had,
showed up in his blood work.
yeah, it just diminished so much that he had to start to get blood transfusions all the time,
Mm,
So
okay.
I got him a crock pot.
Okay.
And I started getting him to put in, because he's, like the Irish stews and stuff like that.
No,
Because he had unusual eating habits, times, and he was a psychiatric nurse for years. He'd have unusual sleep patterns. Like
yeah,
you're saying, sleep is so important as well. And then that was affecting his eating times when he'd eat. And he had done it for so many years. Like he had poor sleep, and he had poor, I suppose, he wouldn't have the normal meal times that we'd have, So then I thought maybe if he'd got the crock pot and he had
yeah,
his Irish stew whenever he wanted it, he could take it. And he
yeah,
loved it. And he actually did. Yeah, it came on an awful lot from finding that out, I suppose, that the fact that his nutrition wasn't right,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But my father in the early days, he also suffered depression, so it's probably hereditary as well.
Okay.
And maybe it's probably more the culture of the family, the lifestyle that the family leads, what they eat, and the same
Mm,
thing. He was a sugar boiler at a sugar mill, working shift work all the time. So his sleep patterns were always interrupted.
yeah.
And yeah, and looking back at when I was a young lad, the meals I suppose my mum cooked was that there was a lot of potatoes.
Yeah. Like in
Basically,
Ireland.
yeah, it looked like it was basically meat and 3 veg, and the vegetables were mainly peas, corn, and potatoes. Unfortunately, potatoes haven't got a lot of nutrition in them, and some people, they can be very inflammatory as well. So,
Mm. Yeah, and it's so true actually, because the same in Ireland here. Obviously potatoes are a big thing, and it's hard, I suppose, when your society, people all around you are eating a certain way, and like meat is very heavy as well in the diet here,
yes,
and potatoes, meat and potatoes, a little bit of veg maybe on the side, small amount, kind of thing, but it's mainly and it's so heavy on the system. But what if everybody's eating like that, and everywhere you go, that's one on the menu. Even when you eat out, it's hard to change that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the norm. Yeah, and the other big thing is preservatives in food. It's chemicals, and that plays around with our body as well. So,
and I guess our lifestyle has kind of changed. Like, it's funny. It's kind of like, I suppose, in Ireland, our lifestyle used to be more physical because it was out, on the farms, and it was out in nature, and it was out, working hard all day. And then, for men, and then when things change, then, and people have office jobs and stuff, but they're still eating as if they need all those calories and all that to fortify them. Just things haven't changed. They don't actually need as much calories and as much as you would be if you're kind of working, physically all the time.
yeah, well, that's what happened to me too, because I was working out in the field, and then I moved into a corporate position. Yeah, and you put on the weight because you're eating the same, but you're not doing the physical exercise to burn the calories for sure. And it also happens to everybody because at the age of 21, you stop growing and your metabolism changes. So when you're a teenager and you're an active teenager, you can eat whatever you like and you don't seem to be able to put the weight on.
Yes.
But then around about 21, your metabolism changes, and if you're still eating the same, you tend to put on the weight, and so that's
and then when middle age, I noticed that as well. Like, now actually my appetite is diminished a lot more than it was when I was younger, and not able to have big meals. It's like I have to eat smaller amounts, kind of thing, because I'm not able to digest things as readily. It's like digestive. I think you have to move with that as well. And if you're still loading your system with an awful lot of food, that it doesn't have the same speed to digest it as you did in your younger days. Like, I think that's important as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and do you know why that is?
Right.
Because as you get older, you start losing your lean muscle, and your lean muscle is the calorie burning machine in your body.
Okay.
So if you just maintain your lifestyle, your eating patterns, but as you get older, you're losing lean muscles, you're not burning as many calories, so naturally you're putting more weight on. The weight slowly increasing. So what you've got to do is you've got to increase your lean muscle by weight-bearing exercises.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. So like I started yoga in the mornings and stuff like that, and that's helped an awful lot because it's kind of helped with the muscle and stretching, moving and stuff like that helps as well, because it's, when you're sitting at a desk all the time,
Yeah.
it takes its toll. You start to seize up.
And well, a lot of back problems happen with
Yeah.
sitting at a desk all the time. So I know the gym that I go to, they modify the exercises because there's some of us older people that are sitting at the desk all the time, and we've got back issues because of it. So they focus on exercises to improve those muscles around the back to strengthen your core.
Yeah, because I just think, because like I'm 40, well, nearly 48 now, but like I suppose since I was in my 20s, early 20s, I've been sitting at a desk, so it does definitely take its toll on the core muscles. I think is probably where, and I suppose like it's so unique to each individual as well, isn't it? Everybody, it's depending on their lifestyle, their job, so that's why maybe a program that's unique or a routine, like you say, is so important, then that's maybe tailored to your specific lifestyle and personality, like, your personality type kind of drives a lot of those habits as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, just looking back, I didn't have an issue when I was working outside physically. It was just when I moved into the office, and it was, I think, working the long hours that did it. I used to work till 12 o'clock every night, and then I used to get up at probably 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was living on 4 hours sleep for years.
Oh my God.
And
That was in the corporate world, was it?
yeah, that was in the corporate world. Yeah.
Yeah. And like no connection with nature. Did you have time? Did you take any time that you used to take out for?
No, well, what happened there was, when I first started in the corporate world, I used to work till 8 o'clock at night and come home, always late, and it's just the amount of workload. And I did sing out for help, but I got a pat on the back and saying, "No, you're doing a good job. Keep it up." And but then I went into project management, and I was working away, so staying in motels, and I was project managing a couple of about seven jobs, $1 million jobs, basically.
Wow.
And so I'm in a motel, and I've got this workload to do to keep everything on task. So I'd work till 12 o'clock at night, and then I'd be up in the morning and out in the field, running the crews. And then when I started my own business, the printing business, that's when I was doing the 12 o'clock, and because the work was there, and at that time it was only me, and so I had to get it done. And well, luckily, just after that, I did start employing staff to alleviate that.
It's so difficult, like to change that, though. If you've got so much pressure built up on you to be achieving like that standard all the time, like where's the room to change that? How would you advise somebody who's like in that position now, that's finding, that there's such heavy responsibility on your shoulders, like, and then I suppose you've got the responsibility of your family then that are kind of looking to make sure that you get, you want to keep your job to support everybody as well. Like it's huge pressure there.
Well, certainly sing out for help. Uh,
Yeah.
Talk to your boss. Unfortunately, the boss that I had at the time was I don't think I actually went into depression when I the first time that I was working in a power station, and so I was the superintendent, so I was in charge, and I had 5 staff, and I had an electrician that was an offsider, and I decided to start university to do the environmental engineering degree. And at that time, the second in charge, or the electrician, he decided to take long service leave. So the company decided not to replace him. They said, "Oh, Lawrence can take over that role as well."
Wow.
So I had no choice in it. So I was actually doing his job during the day, and then I was trying to catch up at night with my own job. And I just started university, so I was trying to study at the same time, and I was working ridiculous hours. That was actually the first time. I was about 32 at the time. That was the first time that I felt the depression. I was very teary, emotional, and I spoke to my boss at the time, and they did send somebody up when they could. So this is working in a remote area, so it was very difficult to get somebody to relieve. And, but at that to remove the stress, I stopped the university course at that time, and that released a little bit of a pressure. And then they did send somebody to relieve the electrician. So that was the first time, and then the second time, I moved from that role into a foreman position, and because I was in that remote area, they just gave me the foreman position without me applying for it. And there was already somebody acting in that position. And then he was one of my subordinates, or the person that I had to work with the closest. And of course, he was a bit annoyed, and he withheld back. He wasn't going to give me the information that I needed to do the work. And also, my boss made it quite clear to me that he wasn't happy that I got the position, that the other guy should have got it. So I was put in a position where I felt like I wasn't getting the support from above and below. And I did that role for about 6 months, and then I fell into depression again.
Wow.
And so that's sort of circumstantial. And in that role, I told them basically where I was at, and they said, okay, we'll shift you sideways and you can manage these contracts. So that's what I did for the next 7 years, managing contracts.
And how old were you at that point then? The first time you were 32, is that right? And then the second time?
32, probably. It was about, the second time, it was only about, probably about a year after that first incident.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, and then probably the third time, I was working as a consultant, and so I was managing a project, and I had to get all these approvals done, and I certainly had deadlines, like you were saying, and I wasn't getting the approvals in time, and I again, lack of sleep, and wasn't exercising, and went into depression then. And so I quit that job, and then that's when I decided that it's time I started working for myself. I thought I had control of it then. I thought, well, if I work for myself, at least I can control the hours that I work. But well, that's probably the last time, actually, because I did get busy, but I could feel myself going into depression. I go, okay, this is familiar. I'm working too hard. I need to employ staff, and that's what I did.
Yeah, that's so important. It's actually funny because that's what happened to me as well. Like I was working for other people and working under a lot of pressure, and then kind of realizing then that you're kind of being used nearly as kind of like this, I don't know, like the more you, I suppose the higher you go and the better you do, the more pressure that comes, that kind of way. And you feel like you're trying to get up the ladder, the corporate ladder, and then you realize the more you get up there, the harder it gets. And it's like, then there's less support, and there's more pressure, and then there's nowhere for that to go, I guess, until then for myself, then I wanted to work for myself too. So I started my own company with my husband, and I suppose with the amount of the type of people that I was working with then changed. So it wasn't as corporate led, it was more social kind of environmental and healthcare initiatives in Ireland, but that helped as well because the deadlines weren't as harsh, I think in the corporate world it's I think they definitely the corporate wellness education is very much lacking, isn't it?
Yeah.
As in they don't realize the burnout, and especially during COVID. I know of a brother-in-law who talks about CEOs and it's so serious, like taking their lives. There's so many that have taken their lives during these few years. That when you're talking about depression there, like it's so important to get help and ask for help there, because it can snowball into, somebody taking their life, it's happening. It is happening,
Well, looking back now over those years, if I knew then what I know now, I would have been able to handle more stress for sure. And I would have known what to do to manage it properly. So I suppose it's a bit of a lesson for anybody listening to this.
Yeah, and it's a lesson for employers, I think, as well. You know, a lesson for employers and employees. You know, on both sides. What do you think?
For sure. Yeah.
And to take that seriously, like, I guess, you know, because it's when, and do you feel like now, I know, like, have you seen the culture change in any way when it comes to men, you know, and those roles, like, since you were in your 30s, I guess, like, have you seen any kind of improvement in the culture, you know, when it comes to, you know, I'm just thinking, like, for me, that's a very masculine industry that you're working in. And I'm wondering, like, is that an area where definitely still needs more support, you know, in that understanding when there's no females around, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Nowadays I work with a lot of females, and they're very yeah. You can talk about the emotions, and they share their feelings, where guys don't tend to do that. And no, I agree. I, I still see it in the corporate world, guys burning out, and I imagine there'd be women as well burning out as well. And
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because, like, there's this push, I know, in a lot of places for women to get involved more in, like, construction areas and different areas where they haven't been before, like, you know, and I'm just thinking that maybe just even having more of a balance when it comes to that the sexes even might help that dynamic, you know, kind of way, and bringing in, although I suppose we've talked in this show as well about women going into the corporate world and having to become very masculine, you know, because of that, because they can't survive under those pressures when if they don't, like, literally put on the hard hat as well, like, you know.
yeah,
And the well-being kind of goes out the window too, you know. But you know, it's more about, like you said, when it comes back to it, like, it's the awareness of the getting your routines in place, like, and your healthy balance of self-care.
yeah, definitely self-care. What I talk about is well, prevention is better than the cure. And with health, there's this imaginary line, like over the line. That's when you're in illness, sickness,
Yeah,
and under the line, you're living a healthy life. So always try and keep under the line, because once you cross that line, it's very difficult to come back into wellness.
I love that. That's actually a brilliant analogy. Yeah, because it's kind of simple to visualize it, isn't it? It's kind of
Yeah,
like, yeah, where are you on that? You know, are you just tipping over into that kind of gray, that danger area nearly?
yeah.
Or
Well, that's what nearly happened to me with high blood pressure. So if I chose to go down that path, didn't change my lifestyle, went on to the medication, it would have been a snowball effect, I'm pretty sure. So I decided to change my lifestyle and come back into the wellness.
the
Uh,
safe zone, we'll call it. Yeah.
so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
good going to the doctors, like they do a fantastic job, but always question what you should be doing to prevent it. Like the doctor will give you medication, and most of the time it's to treat the symptoms.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it's not actually identifying the cause and going to the cause. And strangely enough, the cause will be those four things. It'll be
Yeah.
nutrition, exercise, sleep, and stress management.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
those inflammation is one of the biggest things that causes disease.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can find out why your body's getting inflamed and take that away, reduce that away, you're going to be a lot healthier.
Yeah, that's so so true. And like that, even arthritis and all that, that's all inflammation, isn't it?
It's
And
all inflammation. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and asthma in Ireland, asthma is a big thing, it's inflammation again. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all those, and like the irritable bowels and all that, it's all. So what do you kind of need to soothe your your system, making sure that it's obviously, like you said, there could be nutritional problems there, or it's just, dietary or not enough water or whatever, So I suppose listening to your body is a big thing, isn't
Yep.
it? Don't ignore those signs, like when it's because it's intelligent, isn't it? It's the most
Yeah.
intelligent
No,
thing.
well, your body wants to stay young, and it's a marvelous piece of equipment, basically. So if you get your body has got its own repairing mechanism, and so all it needs is the right things, and those four things again,
Yes.
and your body will repair itself if it's
Yeah.
not too far down that path of
Yeah.
illness.
Oh,
Uh,
I love that. That's a fantastic message, actually, because like it is so true. Like it's naturally designed to self-heal,
yeah, yeah,
isn't it? If you
yeah,
give it a, if you put it in the right environment, we'll say,
yep.
you create that environment for your wellness.
Yeah, and again, it's the 80-20 rule. So I'm not perfect. I still have McDonald's every now and then, and and
Yeah.
some alcohol. Yeah, but it's the 80-20 rule. It's what you do the majority of time that makes the big difference. So I'm good. Eat healthy, sleep, and everything. Well, probably more than 80% of the time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm just wondering as well about finding work that you enjoy. Is that something that's how do you find, have you found something, that changing into doing, serving people in a way that is going to benefit people? Is that something that kind of, because I know myself, like when I've kind of more changed into something that's very much in line with my values and things that I want to do and what I want to say in the world, it actually, you don't have the same stress
No,
as I would have had.
no, no, because if you're passionate about it, yeah, that's the driving force. And and the strange thing, I was passionate about every one of those jobs that I did, and that's probably why I worked long hours. I like to achieve things, but there is a limit.
Yeah.
There is a limit, and that's probably the sleep. But also, I wasn't exercising during that time because I always thought, if you and this is back when I was working out in the field, I didn't need to exercise because I was doing enough manual
Yes.
labor, and it was
Yeah.
only when I went into the office that where you all of a sudden you're not as active as you were, and yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that
Amazing.
again, it's that combination. It's just not one thing. It's the four things that you've got to address.
Yeah. I
Mm.
fit it in. And if you were to advise anyone who's like, really stressed and find it very difficult and getting very overwhelmed, especially this time when there's a lot of pressure on people, men in particular, maybe in roles that you were in when you're in your early days, like how would you think, and maybe they're not finding that they have time in their day, what would you advise them to just start making the change, because sometimes, the way when it's fine to hear when somebody's along the path and whatever, it's very hard to make that change, um, and to start that self-care and kind of, I suppose, a journey back to kind of health, and that in that regard, what would advice would you leave people with?
Yeah. Okay. So just get up earlier in the morning. Start going to bed earlier. But this is the thing about sleep too. The time that you go to sleep is really critical. So, and I don't think many people know this, but during the day, your mitochondria produces energy in and
Hmm.
your mitochondria in your cells produce energy, And part of that process is waste in the cells. So your body has got this detox mechanism where it detoxes every cell in your body between the hours of 6 p.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
So you need about 7 or 8 hours for your cells to completely detox the waste into the lymphatic system.
Wow.
So if you're not getting 7 or 8 hours during that time, like I was going to sleep at 12 o'clock and getting up at, say, 5 o'clock, I only had 4 hours where my body could actually detox that waste. And over time, your body builds up toxins in your system, and then disease start to introduce. And again, depression as well is part of that. So sleep is critical. So I'd say anybody that's starting to suffer depression, start training your body to go to sleep earlier. And it's a bit hard to do right at first. And if it is hard to go to sleep, that means you've got high cortisol levels. So think about reducing the amount of caffeine that you're drinking. Probably reduce the exercise if you're exercising too much. And there is some natural supplements that you can take to relax you. Maybe look at that. Avoid medication if you can, but medication might be okay short term to go to sleep. Start trying to train your body to go to sleep earlier, and you can wake up early. So go to bed early, wake up at 5 o'clock, and go for a walk, and then that starts your day off. Sets your mood. You end up having more energy during the day, and you'll be able to handle more stress. And then probably if you haven't got time to cook healthy meals, spend Sunday or Saturday prepping your meals in little containers and put them in the fridge so you can just take them and go, or order them online, have them delivered. So healthy food options rather than quick fast food. So there's sleep, get up, go for a walk, and nutrition. And then stress management, talk to friends, got to laugh, and do something that that you enjoy, that relaxes you. Start being grateful, fill out a diary, start writing down 10 things that you're grateful. That changes your mindset, more positive. Hang around with more positive people.
Yes, that's so true.
Avoid people that like to cause drama in your life. So I'm not saying don't unfriend them, but just spend less time with them and spend more time with more positive, uplifting people.
Yeah.
So there's some tips.
Oh, Lawrence, that's amazing. That I just have to duplicate that all over the world. Just that last 5 minutes of advice is absolutely amazing. I think you've got all the magic in that. Like, it's so true, isn't it? You know, and it is that's the shift that people can make, and actually transform your whole life, though, can't it? You know, it can actually go from I think, from preventing chronic illness to actually thriving in life.
Yeah.
You know, because like when you start to do that work, and then you start to kind of attract those kind of type of people that are interested in the same things, like it's like a snowball effect, you know, and it gives you so much more energy. Like just being around people that are so kind of on that same vein of thought, or you know, that lifestyle, that, you know, it's just amazing. So like I think that's fabulous advice, you know, and I love anything that's preventative. To me is amazing, you know, because like that, my dad being a psychiatric nurse, I grew up with seeing the chronic side of things, you know. So I just love anyone who's especially, you know, present that message around prevention, and it's better than cure, you know, and it's very doable, and you're a fabulous example of that. And especially to speak to the men in kind of in the corporate world as well, you know, because I don't think we've had many people on here that have spoken to that in particular, you know, and they've been on that journey and that maybe suffered in that way. And, you know, the kind of, because you know, it's very difficult to be in that position and it's amazing to get to, like, the fact that you did so well in life to get to those points, to have that responsibility, you know, amazing to get to that stage that you had such amazing responsibility and you were given that responsibility at such an early age, like at 32, you know, that is a fabulous achievement, you know, and it is amazing part of your character that you were able to do that. So, you know, it would be a shame to see that when people do get to that stage, but then they don't have those, if they just could come in and have those self-care rituals like you were talking about, how, you know, they could enjoy, you know, I suppose success, but maintain their health at the same time would be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for that, Lawrence. And is there anywhere that people could get in touch with you if you
I
do you have
just
a website or?
No, I haven't got a website. Just on Facebook. I'm always sitting on Facebook. That's where I talk to a lot of people, and met Adam there.
Yeah, he's saying amazing, amazing, amazing there.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to reach out or have a chat, just find me on Facebook for sure.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Lawrence, and thanks for coming in and spreading your message. Really appreciate it, and thank you everybody for listening and listen back to the playback. And Adam's sent in some lovely messages to you there, saying that he really enjoyed it and it was amazing live. So thank and have a wonderful night. You're going to bed now, actually. Probably get you a good night's sleep.
It's 10 o'clock. It's past my bedtime. I'm usually in bed at 8.
Sorry for keeping you up, but thanks so much.
All right. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, wonderful to meet you, Lawrence, and stay in touch. And
All right.
bye,
Yep.
everyone. See you again
See you,
soon.
Joel. Bye-bye.
Bye.